gentlemen, here we are with another excerpt of the Scouser and the Scot.
Well, today we've got a really good friend of ours, Kelly Hayes. How the hell are you doing?
What's going on, guys? How are you doing?
Very well. So if people who don't know Kelly, Kelly used to be in a band called Cold. He's got his own guitar making company now called KMFH Guitars. He's also got a side project called Dyquil, which we're all going to cover off and talk about this afternoon. So, Kelly, I've only got a couple of things to say to you, mate. We've got 10 questions, and are you ready for them?
I'm ready. I'm ready. Shoot.
Well, let's start off then, Kelly. Let's start it off. So, can you give us a bit of background, how you got into music from an early age, and what was the things that piqued your interest in music?
Well, funny story about that. I when I was 5, my uncle was supposed to be babysitting me, and he had tickets to Black Sabbath in Atlanta, and it was one of the last shows that Ozzy played with them. And my mom told him, she said, "Don't you go to that show. You have to stay here with Kelly and watch him." And so my uncle actually put me under a trench coat and snuck me into the Black Sabbath concert. And he's like, "Don't tell your mom. Don't tell your mom. Don't tell your mom." As soon as my mom got home, I said, "Mommy, I just saw Tony Iommi play and I want a guitar." And she lost it, man. She lost it and went off on my uncle. And, I remember it like it was yesterday. But the next day she went out and bought me a guitar. And that started it. That was just watching Tony Iommi play. I was like, holy cow, what a talent, And so I, went through my younger years, and I'd pick it up every once in a while and mess around with it. Took a couple lessons, and it didn't really kick in until I was probably right around, I would say, 13 or so. And then I got pretty serious about playing guitar, and started joining bands at a young age, and actually ran away and moved to Hollywood when I was 15 years old, and actually lived in with some guys that were like 21, 22, 23 in a van, actually, back behind the Viper Room, the Whiskey A Go-Go. And man, it was just a cool experience. But came back home crying to my mom about 3 months later. Like, "I want to move back in." She's like, "Well, your ass is the one that left and took off." So she was like, "How was that?" I was like, "It sucked." But after that, we moved to Atlanta, and I started playing one of my first bands, major bands, was actually glam metal, and wore the makeup, lipstick, the spandex pants, all that. Luckily there's no pictures of that, so
Are you sure?
I wish I could say the same about me.
Yeah,
it probably is somewhere.
Yeah.
Probably is somewhere, but not many that I've seen. My mom has a ton of them, but don't she share those? And and then I met the guys in Cold when I was 19, I believe, and they had moved from Jacksonville and had an ad in a local paper called Folio Weekly in Atlanta. And I was like, well, let me go check this out, because that was right at the turn of like when like the glam and hair metal was, Nirvana had come out, and they were just it was disappearing. So I was like, maybe I need to make the jump. And so I went and hung out with those guys, and I didn't even take a guitar or anything that first day. And I was leaving, and they had just moved there, and they said, "Where are you going?" I said, "Well, I'm probably going over to the strip club." And they're like, "Can we go?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." And I knew everybody just from playing in the local scene and everything. And we went to the strip club, and they had a great time and stuff. And Scooter came over. He's like, "Man, I don't even care if you can play or not. You're in the band." But the next day I went and took my guitar, and we started jamming, and I mean, everything just clicked. And it was from there on, it was a great experience, and we had a really good time making that music.
I'll tell you something, Kelly. We've interviewed quite a few musicians, but your story about how you got into the band is the best. It's the coolest one. It's the one that I wish I could write my own autobiography. I get sneaked into see Tony Iommi and Black Sabbath. How cool is that? That's a proper uncle, though. That's a proper Uncle Buck, that.
And what's cool is that Scooter actually did a song with Tony Iommi years later, of course, that was called Something Wicked This Way Comes. I don't think it was ever released, but I got to meet Tony, and that was just and I told him that story, and he was like, wow, that's freaking awesome, So.
It does take a bit of beating, mate. But before I go into the next subject, I would just like to say, if anybody has got photographs of this man and his glam scene with all his makeup on, we will pay good money to share them on social media.
Right.
Trust me.
Be careful, because his mum will most probably go, how much?
Oh no, Mum, you can't do it. That's unfair. So,
yeah, if anyone's got pictures, we'll share them.
Don't do it, Mom. Don't do it. Don't do it. Everybody in the world will start watching this show. I promise you.
So the next question I'd like to ask you is: so, as a guitarist, performer, whatever, which sort of artists or bands, if you to pick 4 or 5 that you made you want to be who you are, inspired you, who would they be, Kelly?
Well, obviously Tony Iommi, Black Sabbath. I mean, that's just they're the innovators. They started this. I mean, and my hands down all-time favorite guitar player ever is Chris DeGarmo from Queensryche. I mean, that guy's just phenomenal. Queensryche, Black Sabbath, of course Ozzy, Randy Rhoads, Jakey Lee. I mean, I'm old school. I like the old, shredders and but they're not really they have like a lot of musical talent, and they're good songwriters as well. And that's what I like about, Chris DeGarmo, Tony Iommi, Randy Rhoads. I would. And secondly, George Lynch is my second favorite guitar player of all time. Guy's just phenomenal. I mean, I watch him and I'm like, how does he do that? Like, I can't do that, But those are some of my all-time guitar heroes. And as far as bands, like, I've seen some great live bands. I mean, Slipknot's always great live. We played with them several times at festivals and things like that. And they're just phenomenal. But as far as older bands, Queensryche, hands down, one of the best shows I've ever seen. Iron Maiden was phenomenal. I couldn't hear for about a week and a half after that concert. And that was Somewhere in Time tour. I think I was 14 or 15 years old. But that's some, just to name a few. And all the bands that I've toured with and everything, just it's like, it's just a camaraderie. Like, it's more about, it's just a big family, or that's the way it used to be. Now I've been out of the music scene for about 8 years, and so that's why I was like, I might not be the best one to ask about things like how the industry works nowadays, because I have no clue. I'm putting out this new EP and I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm just going with it. So, but those are some of my all-time heroes. I'll tell you, I got to meet Chris DeGarmo when he was on tour. He was playing with Jerry Cantrell when we toured with Jerry Cantrell, and
legend.
No shit, that is the first and only time I've ever fallen to my knees in front of somebody. And I was just like, dude, you are a god, And he's like, man, get up off your knees. Come on, it's embarrassing. But he is. I mean, to me, he's the end all be all, And I mean, just the songwriting and the playing and just the notes that he chooses and just everything about everything he does is just awesome. And it's funny because he's not even a guitar player anymore. I think he flies airplanes or something like that. So
Seriously?
so
I'll be
I'm
honest.
like,
You've just mentioned one of my heroes completely,
well,
Jerry Cantrell, and you've
oh
been
yeah,
on tour with him. The
yeah,
guys, Alice in Chains, as you know, like they're just phenomenal, next
oh
level.
yeah, yeah,
That is a bit of a story that you went on tour with those guys. Surely you must
yeah.
have some it must have been an amazing feeling for yourself to actually
Oh, that was yeah. I was
just
like,
watch.
really? We're going
Yeah,
on
what
tour with Jerry Cantrell? Wow.
it's
You know?
it's nuts that, like, you know what I mean? Because as I say, there's a lot of people who watch this, and a lot of good friends of mine as well, who, like, look up to Alice and James. The songwriting skills
Oh
of
yeah.
Alice and Jerry, they're second to none. And I think it's hard to actually see anyone who can follow in those footsteps because
You
they
know,
are that good.
I'll tell you that when we were on that tour, we actually got to meet Lane Staley as well
Seriously, wow.
at the show in Seattle, and it broke my heart, man. I mean, it'll bring a tear to my eye now. I mean, he probably weighed all of 80 pounds. He had gloves on. He was
Yeah.
all strung out, and he'd come out to see Jerry, and we got to meet him. Scooter actually got a picture with him. I'm sure that picture exists somewhere. But I mean, it just broke my heart. I had to leave the room because he looked so bad and just was, and it's such a shame. It's a crying shame, but
it's a loss of a major talent, in my opinion.
yes, yeah,
100%.
yeah, for sure. But it was, that
it's
was
an experience,
one of the
though. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity. I've been very blessed, to meet the people that I've met, and sometimes I took it for granted, but now looking back on it, I'm like, wow, my life's it's been pretty cool, and it's only beginning. So
Exactly, and that you've got to look forward, and obviously you can dwell and look back and think, wow, look what I've done. And
yeah,
that's why I always say to every musician, you can always write, you can always play, you always look forward, and you
yeah,
learn something new every day. And
absolutely.
that's the important thing. So going on, obviously we've touched on a few things on, like, who inspired you to play guitar and stuff like that. But who inspires you as a songwriter, and what do you think are the key ingredients to write a good song, a great song?
Really, I don't consider myself a songwriter.
Okay.
So I just I sit down and I play what feels right. Like I've had a lot of, I've played with a lot of musicians that like to be structured and like that, oh, well, you can't do that here. And I'm like, well, why not? I just did it. It's like, if it works, it works. Like, a lot of times, like, I mean, a lot of people say that I've developed my own style, which I don't really see or hear, but it's like I use notes. I put notes together that people would say shouldn't be together, and it works. So I'm like, if it works, like my only advice in songwriting really is, if it works, do it. I mean, if it sounds good to you, don't worry about what other people are going to think. It's music's for you first and foremost, and it should be. It's a release. I mean, I always used to say in interviews, if I wasn't a musician, I'd probably be a serial killer. Because but
just thank that your uncle took you to see Sabbath, man. That's
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would ask me, what would you be doing if you weren't a musician? I'd say serial killer, with as straight a face as I could, and they'd be like, okay. And I'm like, well, I mean, it's the truth. If I didn't have that release, I don't know what I would have done, but over the years, I mean, I stopped playing I didn't touch a guitar for 7 years, and and yeah, I probably still wouldn't be playing again if my wife wouldn't have bought me a guitar for my birthday 2 years ago. And I was like, really? You bought me a guitar? Why did you buy me a guitar? And she's like, well, because I want to hear you play. She'd never heard me play. That was the funny thing. Yeah, we met 9 years ago, and I stopped. I was right at the end of my project after Cold, Allele, and she's like, well, I never heard you play. So, I was like, well, let me get a little recording, program and stuff and see. And then I started writing. I'm like, oh, let me write a couple songs and put them out there. And oh, wait a minute, let me find a singer. Oh, wait, so it just kind of snowballed to Dyquil now. So, which is, I know you've heard the song, Ian.
Yeah.
And
Thanks for sharing.
I mean, some of the stuff is just some of the best stuff I've ever written. And, I think that has a lot to do with I'm going on 8.5 years sober from everything. No drugs, no drinking. I do this vaping thing, but but that's it. And I have more clarity now. Like, and it's different. It's a lot harder. Like, my writing process back in the day is I would show up at the practice room completely wasted, and we would just start jamming, and whatever came out is what we were like, dude, that's awesome. So I thought that was the only way that I knew how to write. I was like, well, I got to be drunk, kind of like alcohol does. It takes over everything. You think you're Mr. Suave or whatever, and out in public, and you don't think you can function unless you're drinking. That was me, And then I watched videos back, and I'm like, wow. I was like, that's me, really? Like, and that's
how did you find playing? Obviously, like, you know what I mean, being drunk. Did you ever go on stage drunk and stuff like that?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. We woke up. I mean, Cold was. I mean, some of the bands we used to like the guys in Godsmack and Stain and stuff. They would call us the Guns N' Roses of the 2000s, because we just partied, man, and that was it, like, and I mean, I'd wake up if we probably wouldn't go to sleep till 7 or 8 in the morning, and then we wake up at like, I don't know, 7 or 8 at night, and just start drinking it all over. It was so bad that me and Jeremy would strain beers from cigarette butts and stuff and drink them, and until we got, like our new cases of beer or whatever the case may be. And I would purposely write breaks into our songs so that I knew I could go drink a beer while there was a little stop in the in the song, in my guitar playing, so I could go get a sip of beer. And I was like, that's pretty bad, but it
like you say, obviously you've releasing your first single, Friendly Fire, with Dyquil. I've heard it today. It sounds fucking epic. It sounds huge. John, I will ping it over to you if Kelly lets me, if that's all right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. You let me know when it's coming out, Kelly. I'll even play it on my I have a radio show, so I'll even play it on my radio show, mate.
So
yeah, it's dropping the 25th of this month of June, on all the major streaming. But I mean, dude, whenever you're ready to play it. I'm not one of those. I mean, music's meant to be heard. I don't want to keep it up. The only reason it's coming out on the 25th is because DistroKid said that I should wait so that I could get it on all the streaming platforms at one time. Like, 'cause I wanted to put it out yesterday. I was like, cool, it's mixed. Let's put it out. And you got to you got to jump through their hoops. So
yeah, that's what we're doing. It's a different ball game nowadays, bro. It's They dictate everything, them twats.
Yeah, that's it. Like I was like, how do I do this? Like I asked my singer Jacob. He he has another band called State of Illusion, which is amazing as well, and he distributes all his own music and stuff. So I'm like, okay, now what do I do, bro? We got the song written, we have it mastered and mixed. He's like, well, you go here, you go in distro or TuneCore. I'm like, distro who? Distro what? I ain't going to the disco,
I thought that died out years ago.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't, I'm like, bro, I don't know how to do this shit. Like, how do I, And he's like, just go here. It's real easy, and it is easy, but like you said, I mean, it's a whole new world of music. Like you don't really need labels anymore. You can do it all yourself, and I'm just that's just a whole different experience to what I'm used to with being in cold and being signed to labels, and which I love it. I mean, most labels are crap, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And always were.
Yeah.
Yeah, and always were. Yeah, it's a different ball game, mate. But you'll get there. And if your singer knows, if your singer already knows it, you just let him do it. That's what he's there for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I'd like to talk about your guitar playing now, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Because there will be lots of younger or newer guitarists watching this. So one of the things that we like to talk about is, because we've had quite a lot of different responses to this next sort of question, which is, do you practice your guitar? And if you do, how often? What do you do? Have you any advice about learning the guitar and how often you should do things and what you should do for anybody that's budding sort of guitarist watching this, mate?
Play a lot of Guitar Hero. No, I'm kidding. But I just I when I first started, I would practice like when I was 13 till probably 17 or so. I practiced probably 12, 13 hours a day, just running through scales. I used to be like quite the little shredder, but I kind of lost after bar fights and everything else, breaking all my knuckles, and it's a little painful nowadays, to try to run those fast licks. But I used to practice 17, 13 hours, 14 hours a day, and I don't know that it's necessary, but it's it's good to practice, of course. But nowadays, man, I barely, I mean, if I pick my guitar up, it's to record something, like people are always like, dude, let's get together and jam. I'm like, I don't jam. I don't do it. I don't, I'm like, if I'm writing or if I'm playing guitar, it's for a purpose. It's to write something or get an emotion across, or, but I do practice like, if I have a riff that I'm like, man, I really want this in here, but I can't do it. So of course you got to practice it, you get, but, so I pick out the notes and I start slowly and just kind of, get it to where I can play it. Now, starting out, and dude, nowadays it's so much different because, like I said, I took a few lessons here and there, and they wanted to, and I was like every kid, they wanted to teach me row your boat and all these scales and all this crap, and I'm like, dude, I want to play some Black Sabbath, and they're like, well, you'll get there, and I'm like, no, I'll get there today, and just impatient, and so I stopped taking lessons, and I just would sit down and listen to a song and just kind of pick everything out, and it's kind of somewhat self-taught, and then I'd look up, or back then I didn't have videos and stuff, so we'd go get the tab books, the old tab books, and you could buy Metallica's whole album tabbed, tabbed out, and of course it was never right, but it was close enough. So, but that's kind of how I got to where and these are strange questions for me because I never really considered myself a good guitar player by any means. Like, I think I suck, to be honest with you, but as opposed to, other people that I've played with, and I mean, I've met some phenomenal guitar players, but again, that comes back to, I guess I've developed my own type of style and it works for me. So, and people like it.
But because I know what you're saying there, like, I don't rate myself as a good guitarist. However, it's one of the things that I do is I write songs to what I can do and what feels right. So it makes you feel more comfortable and confident on stage and stuff like that. And it's always been that way. It's like, I mean, there's loads of amazing shredders out there, like, your Steve Vais, Joe Satches of the world, as you say, your George Lynch, like, and Matthias Elkelund, like, you know what I mean? It's things like that where you look at them, you go, and they're doing all this, and you're like, what are you doing? Like, you're melting me.
Yeah, but see from my perspective as an ex-singer, right? So I've never played a guitar in my life. I think the problem is with a lot of these guys that are technically gifted, that sometimes, and quite often, the songs that they write and the bands that they're in are a vehicle for showing that. And that comes at the cost of the actual quality of the song and the melodies, etc. So when you say you don't count yourself as a good guitarist, or Ian says he doesn't count himself, I would rather have a guitarist that concentrates on writing bloody good songs and recording bloody good songs than like, right, can we just get past the vocal, can we just get past the verse chorus so as I can show how fucking good I am,
right? And make it all about my shredding, like, but I'll tell you, that was something that, like, when I was 16, we moved to Atlanta, and I had a buddy of mine, this guy David, that I went to school with, and I met him at school, and we hung out for a while and stuff. He's like, "Oh wow, you play guitar?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, I'd love to play guitar, but I've just never picked one up or anything." And I'm like, "Well, dude, I'll teach you some stuff." So I taught him, and in no shit, in 3 months, this kid could sit down and listen to a Mozart song and play it on guitar.
Shit.
And I was like, "You little shit." I was like, "Dude," I was like, "You suck, man." I was like, he blew me away. Like, after like 6 months of playing, he just blew me away. And he could sit down, listen to any song one time, and play it note for note. Just a natural talent, And but the funny thing about him is he had a full scholarship to Juilliard. He had multiple music schools, and he could have been like a Steve Vai or something. And he works on aircraft carriers.
The problem sometimes is that when something,
he never wanted to do it.
And the other thing is, if it's that easy for him, then where's the challenge as well? I mean, that's one of the things, Kelly. You talked about you were 7 or 8 years you hadn't picked up a guitar. When you did, when your wife very kindly reintroduced you to your own instrument, how long did it take you to get back up to a speed? Is it like riding a bike and it's just there again, or did you find it quite difficult, mate?
I wrote the actually, Friendly Fire is the second song I wrote. The first song I wrote in like a day and a half after she got me that guitar. And and then I wrote Friendly Fire in about 2 days or so. So it wasn't really hard because I had all the, I knew the notes, and it was just more getting my fingers and all my hands to work back together. And but it was kind of like riding a bike. I'm still getting like some of my faster riffs and stuff up to speed. I mean, it's been a year and a half now. Like I said, I just don't have time to practice anymore. I'm running 2 businesses and trying to put out music, and and life, and then I'm rocking the dad bod. Got 4 kids to take care of, so
don't forget your dogs. Don't forget your dogs.
And my dogs, one of my dogs is right here. I don't know if you can see him. Yeah, he's my old boy. But yeah,
okay,
it was kind of like riding a bike. I mean, I was like, oh wow. I mean, I still got it. Cool.
You never lose it. You never lose it, mate. It's like, it's one of them musics in your blood. It always is. It just needs to reignite.
That's not just a saying. That's true.
100%. So let's talk about new stuff, new projects. Dyquil comes to mind straight away. Obviously, we've talked about Friendly Fire. What can you tell us about the project Dyquil itself, and where you got the name from, and what are the plans in the next couple of months for Dyquil? Like, what have you got planned? What is the goal?
Good question. The goal is to make me happy. And I'm not being selfish, but writing music makes me happy. So, and if I can share it and it makes other people and it touches other people's lives, then great, but I started Dyquil just because I wanted to write something, you know, and I wanted to see where it went. And I just kind of, I had 3 or 4 songs written, no lyrics and no, no, man, I can't sing. I can't play drums. I can play the shit out of a guitar, but some reason, like I just can't, like drums. I cannot get my hands and feet to work simultaneously, separate from each other. It's like this moves and this moves, and I'm like, and I can't sing. I've done a few backups here and there throughout Cold and Allele and everything, but so I put it on Facebook and I said, hey, any singers out there maybe want to give it a shot for, maybe singing on a couple of my songs. I'm not looking for anything, I just want to put some vocals to it. And Jacob, my singer, he's like, man, I'll give it a shot. And he's been a big fan of Cold and big fan of mine throughout the years and everything. And he sent me back, and Friendly Fire was the first song that he sent me back. But actually, no, that's not true. He sent me the Fallen first, which is one that will be on the EP. But and I listened to it, and I was just like, this guy is a freaking talent and a half. Like, why isn't he? You're like in South Carolina, not doing anything. Like, I just didn't understand it. Like, and but I learned that he does have another band called State of Illusion that he writes everything. He puts it out himself. But I was just blown away by him. And I was like, dude, like, I think we might be onto something here, So I recruited a couple other guys. Dusty Winterrod is our drummer. He was my drummer from Allele, the band after Cold. And then Jesse Rush is our rhythm guitar player. Now, bass, we're kind of, I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure who's playing bass, but Jeremy Marshall, my old bass player from Cold, is wanting to do it. But you know how life kind of takes you where in different directions. So he, he's got 2 young daughters and runs an electric company and stuff. So he's just, not a lot of time left for music in the day. So, but I was like, dude, I'll wait on you. I'll wait for the next 20 years. I don't care, And but the farewell, the Friendly Fire, the one you heard, it's mainly just me and Jacob. Like all the, Jacob did all the drums and everything. Dusty is going to be on the EP as well as the full length. But we just, we all live in different places too, and it's kind of hard to get everybody on the same page. And I was like, I was getting impatient after a year. I was like, I'm putting something out, people need to hear, I need to share this, So, now the name, it's kind of a funny story, and I don't want anybody to ever take that I have bad feelings towards Cold or any of those guys or anything like that. But because I love those guys. That's part of my life. They'll always be my brothers. They'll always be, I love them to death, but I saw they had come out with a new album and everything. And I was like, just kidding around with my wife. And I was like, I should call, I should name the band The Flu. And, and she was like, that's dumb, and I said, well, what do you take for a cold? And I was like, well, you take Dyquil and NyQuil. And I was like, I got it, Dyquil. I was gonna call the album The Cold Killer, but I was like, and I'm not like, I'm not petty. I'm not gonna be petty, and I'm not gonna, and like I said, those guys are all my brothers. So
you're quite right, Kelly. You're doing it from a humorous point of view, but you would just imagine that lots of people that would jump to the other conclusion and think that you were bitter and twisted. Right. You did the right thing. I mean, when you're telling the story to us, it's really funny, and it's probably something that we would actually do ourselves. There would be a lot of people that wouldn't get it, and they twist it.
Yeah, and see, I would be doing it like, I think that's the big problem in the world today. People don't know how to take a joke.
No.
You know, it's like I would be doing it to be comical, you know, like because I came from cold. Like everybody knows me from cold. So how funny would it be for me to be like, oh well, I'm the cold killer. You know what I mean? Like, and so to me, it's comical. But you know, people are so sensitive nowadays. You know, like where's the days?
Snowflakes, mate. They're snowflakes.
Yeah,
yeah, and they moan about that as well. You can't call them snowflakes, John. You can't.
We're gonna get in trouble.
That fucking show. I can call them what I like.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Facebook banned for another 3 months.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
You told me to do it. Right, let's talk about your guitar brand. You recently started your own guitar brand, which is KMFH. Can you tell us a bit about why, how, and how it's going, mate?
Well, I started it because after she bought me that guitar, I started looking for other guitars, and I'm an ESP guy. Like I've always played ESPs. I love ESPs. I had my signature series with Cold on ESPs. But they're just so damn expensive, you know? And I was like, well, I'm a carpenter. Like that's what I do for a living. That's my other business. Like I build stuff, you know? I said, how hard can it be to build a guitar? You know? And I found out that it's pretty damn hard. Like my first guitar. My first guitar, I was like, well, this shit sucks. You know? It was like you know, just for intonation and all that, if you're not dead on, like, I mean, you cannot be like a millimeter off or you're just all whack, you know, and just getting everything to just the measuring is a pain in the ass. And, but, you know, I made a couple guitars and I was like, well, I mean, this isn't too hard. I mean, I can figure it out as I go. And you know, so I kind of put it out there and I was like, look, I'm going to start making guitars if anybody be interested. And I got to give a shout out to my boy, Joseph Wayne. I know he'll be watching this. He was my first customer and he still doesn't have a guitar. But the reason is because we went with a ridiculous combination. So we wanted to do the whole guitar out of swamp ash. Swamp ash is great for bodies. We found out that it absolutely sucks for necks. So that neck just won't hold. You know, it one day it plays like a dream. It's a 7-string, plays like a dream. The next day you pick it up and it frets out all over the place, and you know, and won't stay in tune. I'm like, dude, we got to redo this. You know, so but I will tell you this: how's this for customer service? So this is what you get when you get KMFH guitars. I shipped it to him before the neck. He even had problems with the neck. He had a problem with the wiring. I got my big ass in a truck, in our truck, me and my wife, and drove our asses from Florida to Oklahoma. I think it's a 17.5-hour drive just to fix one wire on his guitar. So, wow. And then he's like, really? You're going to drive all the way here just to fix this one wire? And he's like, dude, I can take it to a shop. I said, nope, you bought it from me. I'm going to fix it for you, you know? And that's what we did. So that's pretty much how we ended up in Arkansas too, because we came back through Arkansas and my wife just fell in love with it. So within 2 weeks, I said, fuck it, let's get out of Florida and move to Arkansas, you know? But back to KMFH. So we, so a lot of people have been ordering. The customs aren't cheap. I don't like to use cheap, parts, and I don't do Chinese parts. I just think they're crap. My stuff's either made in America, Canada, or England. So, and I use a lot of Spurzell, Graphtec, Kaler Tremolo, Shaler Tremolo, Shaler hardtails. And then I just kind of give the customer I'm like, what do you want? Tell me what you want and I'll make it happen. I'm sure you guys have seen some of the ones on, the pictures and all that stuff. And, you know, it takes some time to finish them, and I've got a few that I've shipped out, and I'm like, man, can you guys send me some videos of you playing them and stuff? And I'm like, Kelly, we don't really even play guitar. We just wanted one because you made it. And I'm like, well, that's great. Now I have no promo videos, you know, but that's okay. You know, and so, you know, like I'm working on a Michael Myers one right now. All the inlays, glow in the dark, the glow orange in the dark. I hand do everything on these guitars. Nothing CNC'd. You know, all the inlays I carve out myself. You know, and it's fun. It's kind of like music to me. You know, it's a release. And I enjoy it. My wife would say that I don't enjoy it when she hears all the cussing and me throwing stuff and everything, but
Goes without
that's part of it, man. You know, like
that's life. That's man stuff. That.
that's right. Yeah, like holes in the walls and you know all that shit. Like that's what we do. You know, like and there's a couple of broken guitars down there that I'm just like, fuck this thing and smash it on the ground, you know, because I hated it, or you know, it wasn't working out the way I wanted, or whatever the case may be. But we're working towards coming out with it's called the Shadow Series line, and Ian, I know you're gonna, you know, you're helping me with promoting this and stuff. Thank you, and thank you too, John, but yeah, you know, we're working on, so that'll be like a lower. I hate to say cheaper because it's nothing cheaper. It's just the less expensive, I guess, is the more is a you know more proper term for it. Which they won't be as customizable, but still, you know, all handmade to order, and they'll be in the range of, you know, $500 to $1,000 depending on what you pick on them. You know, what you pick to go on them. If you just want some cheap Chinese piece of crap, go to Guitar Center and buy it, because I'm not gonna make it. So, you know,
to be honest, if you can get a custom for $500 to $1,000, and it plays as well as, like, as you know, Matt, a good friend of mine as well. Like, you know, I mean, it plays so well, then you're not gonna. It's a no-brainer for people, because
right.
it's like, you know, you want something that's going to be on stage, be able to have decent things. I know you use EMG pickups, which I use, and I've been using absolutely year, day dot. And like I say, if you're throwing that sort of gear in it, then you want it to sound the best, and that's the
Absolutely.
best way of doing it.
Yeah, and you know, it's not in. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I would love for that to be my career. I would love to have a guitar company. I would love to. I mean, you know, but I'm not in it for the money. You know, I'm not in it for the. I mean, like I said, I have my carpentry business that's what we do, and we make good money, and we do just fine. You know, I keep a roof over my kids' heads, and that's all I ask for. That's all I want in life. You know, and but so it's not for me to make money at all, and
so obviously
that's why I can lower. You know, I can make things like more affordable, and I try to work with people, and I offer them payment plans. You know, like they put a percentage down while I'm making the guitar. I let them pay like $100 a month or whatever. That doesn't make me any money. You know, well, all that does is go right into their guitar. They can send me $100, I buy a piece for their guitar. You know, like, and you know, but at the end of the day, if I can make somebody happy with a custom guitar that they've always wanted, then that's payment enough for me, you know.
So what's been the biggest challenges? Obviously, you was talking about, you've set it up, you've punched holes in walls, you've got broken guitars. Has there been any other major challenges setting up the actual business itself?
Not. I mean, getting the business set up was the easy part, you know. Getting people interested in stuff like that, because you know people are leery of everything nowadays. You know, so it's like they want to see a product, they want to see, and that's how business works. And you know, that's what we're working towards. And I'm still learning. I went in this blind, and by no means did I ever, you know, say that I'm a master luthier or anything like that. and I'm still learning. Like, that's the holes in the walls and the broken guitars and all that stuff.
How
'Cause
did
I'm
you find?
learning.
How did you find which wood works best?
What's that?
How did you find which wood works best? Which is the best
Um,
woods? Because I know people use mahogany. I know you use mahogany
oh
and
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah,
But
yeah. I use mahogany. You know what, dude? I really just like to experiment. You
okay,
know, like I have one. Uh, I called it the Made in America guitar. Because and what it is, it's actually Spanish cedar on the outsides, and then I have black walnut and ash running through the middle of it.
nice.
And I was like, I don't know what this is gonna sound like, but I shaped it, I put a neck on it, I strung it up, and I played it, and I was like, holy shit, this thing sounds amazing, you know? And that guitar is very bright and twangy. Like, I could see some like bluegrass or something being played on it. But but for me, like the wood is like I asked them, I say, well, what are you looking for? What kind of wood you want to use? And they're like, oh, we don't know. You're the expert. And I'm like, no, not really, but let's figure out a cool wood that's gonna look cool. And you have your standards that, of course, mahogany, alder, ash is really good for guitars, maple, but I like to use like black limba, white limba, Babinga on guitars, stuff like that. I just made myself one. It's out of black walnut. So I actually made a door for a customer of mine from the carpentry business, and had all this black walnut left over, and the asshole never paid me for the door. So I was like, okay, well, I'm keeping all the walnut. And because he wanted it back, and I was like, no, you didn't even pay me for the door. Like, come on, fight me. I don't care. I'll beat your ass. But anyhow, so I was like, I'm gonna make a black walnut guitar. And man, that thing came out beautiful, and I was like, I'm keeping this one for myself. So, but it was just something I had some wood laying around. I was like, well, let's try it out and see how it does. And so as far as wood selection, I mean, it's really just kind of, that's what I tell my customers. I say, let's get adventurous. Let's use some stuff that isn't normal, or if it doesn't work, then we'll go back to more traditional. But
I think the thing is, though, Kelly, that I mean, one of the things I was going to say to you about was setting it up as a business and all that. But
yeah,
the reality here is that what you are, as I see it, is you understand timber. I used to sell timber, although I would say I'm actually a blacksmith to trade, so I understand.
right.
Yeah, and I understand metals and all the different way that works. But I used to sell timber, so I kind of understand it. So you can come into this from your carpenter experience as much as your guitar playing experience, and put the two together. So I think that gives you a unique selling point. For me as
Yeah,
a marketing salesman kind of guy, then that's what I would say. That's the beauty of it. So you aren't, when you say let's get adventurous, the woods that wouldn't work.
right.
But what you're
Right.
doing is you're looking at the woods that you think you have an inkling because of how they are and how they act and other things. You must have a very good idea whether they've got a fighting chance of working.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't want to. I mean, you don't want to go grab some 2x4s at the Home Depot and make a guitar out of it. It's going to sound like crap. But I mean, most of your hardwoods are gonna make a decent sounding guitar. And I mean, let's be honest, we're working with electric guitars here. I'm not making acoustics yet. Now I will start making acoustics, but that's all in the pickups, man. You know, like that's all in the pickups and your amp. Like, the resonation comes a lot from like how long the guitar resonates and stuff, comes a lot from the wood, but your sound comes from your pickups. Your sound
Um,
comes from your amp. So if you're putting some crap pickups in a guitar, you're gonna have I don't care if it's made out of freaking gold, it's gonna sound like crap because your pickups are crap.
Hmm.
And and it's just, so you can be a little more adventurous on your wood selections and things like that. But good point. The swamp witch didn't work for a neck. Now necks are a totally different story. They have to hold up to the tension. So if you're picking some wood that is less, has more spring and stuff like that in it, then you're gonna get what we got. And I've tried everything. I added carbon fiber to that thing. I've painted it with carbon fiber. I've put metal rods through it, all kinds of stuff, and it's just not gonna hold. That won't hold up as a neck. So, lesson learned. And that's part of trial and error is a big part of any industry, and it's music, whether it be running a business, whether it be, anything. And I've had some great friends give me advice on things, and I had a great friend the other day, and I think he might know who he is, tell me, if you don't write it down, you can't make it come true. So, Ian, isn't that what you said?
To be honest, I've got to give credit to my wife, Lisa, because
there you go.
Yeah, Lisa's always saying to me, if you don't write it down, it'll never happen.
That's right.
And it's a good start, and I've always said that. When I pinged it over to you, Kelly, and you bounced it back, it's sort of, I think Lisa overheard me when we were talking. She's most probably listening in the background going,
yeah, that's it. But it's true, because I started writing things down and kind of making a to-do checklist, and it's working, and it's helping me a lot, because if you don't write it, I'm kind of like Keir Scatterbrain, because I'm like, all right, well, I've got a carpentry business to run, but I got to work on this guitar, and then I'll start working on it, and I'll get, a little bit, and then, I got to go do this, and it's like, but with KMFH, I would love to. I think next year we're going to start looking into getting into NAMM, and possibly getting a booth, in NAMM. But right now I'm just more focused on getting some of these guitars done and out into people's hands that actually play them, and can do some reviews for me, and do, some promo videos and things of that nature. So, it's a slow process, but like any business, that's business,
He needs to get Trucker Sean some, doesn't he, mate?
Yeah, I can put you in touch with Trucker Sean.
Okay.
We interviewed Trucker Sean on this show before, and he's really cool, and loves all this kind of stuff. He'll love that kind of stuff. So, Trucker,
awesome.
I'll put you in touch with him.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Not a problem at all, Kelly. So obviously, we've touched on the guitars and stuff like that. If someone was interested in, ordering a guitar, what is the actual process? How long does it roughly take?
To make like a one from scratch, or just altering a guitar?
No, just someone comes in, wants a brand new guitar, custom one.
It generally takes me 3 to 4 months, somewhere around there. And that's just kind of I could probably, and I tell everybody, I could probably pump a guitar out in 2 to 3 weeks, but would you be satisfied with that guitar? Taking your time on everything, not rushing things is always a good thing. Whether it be music, whether it be building something, whether, for instance, in my carpentry business, I have people are like, well, I want all these, I want these cabinets done, but can you do them in 2 weeks? And I'm like, no, can't do that in 2 weeks. Like, what the hell? What are you, crazy? Yeah, sure, I could slap them together in 2 weeks. They'll look like freaking funhouse cabinets, but I can do that for you. And the same thing with guitars. Yeah, I can slap one together, but it's not going to be what you wanted. It's not going to be a custom, so generally it's about, 3 to 4 months.
That's cool. So what's the let's just talk about the guitar company just now. What are the short, medium, and longer term plans that you've got for it, Kelly?
Good question. Because I don't know. I don't know. I just kind of, I've always just kind of well, let's do this and see where it goes. You know, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. That's just, you know, and I'm not gonna lose any sleep over it. You know, like if it now ultimately, I would, like I said, I would love to own a major guitar company. You know, and not a major, but just more. You know, I don't want to be an ESP or a Gibson or anything like that, but I would, you know, love to have a strong clientele, maybe a few endorsements here and endorsees here and there, you know, and just, you know, make it more of a household name. But you know, the short term is really just doing what I like doing, you know. And
as you said about the reason why I asked the question, apart from anything else, is because you said about considering going to NAM. You know, that to me signals you want to step it up, or else why do it? You know, so I mean, for that perspective, I think that with your skill sets, right? I'm not a guitarist. I wouldn't know one end of a freaking guitar for another from a playing perspective, but I know what they sound like, I know what they look like, etc., etc. So to me, if I was looking for somebody to create a guitar for me, I'd be looking for somebody that can play it really well, but can make them really well because they actually are an artisan with wood. So to me, that's your USP. So I don't see why you couldn't make this super successful. That's the reason why I'm asking the question, mate. So if I could give one piece of advice for all it's worth, I think you really need to. I think if you really focus on that, mate, you could really do something with this, bro. You really could.
Well, thank you very much. And that, you know, and that, I'm blessed to have, you know, people such as yourself and Ian that are willing to help me with this as well. You know, and you know, yeah, I mean, I would love to just make guitars full time. That, you know, it's my passion. It's what I do. I mean, I play guitar, and now I build them. You know, so you know, what better dream? What better dream would that be? Yeah. Well,
I tell you right now,
I'm working on it, man. I'm working on it. You know?
Well, what I'll do is after I finish here, I'll write you a short-term, medium-term, and long-term plan and send it across to you, because we'll help you, mate. We'll help you.
You know, like I say, Kelly, we're always here, mate. It's a family. You know, the music scene. It's a family.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of good people out there who are willing to help. And that's why we've got you on the show, because you've spent time giving us, like, you know, so we can only thank you. And that ends the show, unfortunately, Kelly. But being a Scouser and being a cheeky chap I always am, I have got one last question for you. So if someone wants to go, I want to hear Dyquil, I want to hear their music, I want to buy a KMFH guitar, how do we get in touch with you? Give us your links.
It's really just Facebook right now. It's my KJ Hayes personal page. So just look up KJ Hayes. It's Kelly and Jessica Hayes. And I have a KMFH custom guitars page on Facebook. And there's also a Dyquil page on Facebook. The websites are coming soon. I had them up and running, but you know, things were so slow that I couldn't afford to pay for them. So I was like, well, screw the websites, you know, nobody goes to a website anymore anyhow. But I will have them back up and running, you know, as soon as but right now, I mean, you can reach us on Facebook at KJ Hayes, KMFH Custom Guitars, or Dyquil.
What I'll do for you, I'll put all the links down below. So guys, if you want to watch, as I say, keep in touch with Kelly, top bloke. He knows his shit about music. He knows his stuff about guitars. Seriously, go and check it out. Click the links down below. One last thing, John, over to you, mate.
Well, all I can do is thank you very much, Kelly, for coming on and sharing your experiences, your wisdom with us, because it's really appreciated. And I hope that
thank you, brother.
The young musicians and bands that are watching you have just learned something from you. And by the way, you need to check out his guitars. That's for every guitarist. So until next time, you know what to do. Hit that cowbell and subscribe.